Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Ask everybody to stand for the pledge to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. We have a quorum this evening. Approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Has everybody seen the minutes from the June 16th meeting? Yes. Any corrections, changes? Motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second? Second. Thank you. Any items from board members? No. Okay. Any items from staff? Okay. We've got two public hearings this evening. We're going to change the order of the on the agenda. The first one will be V 2223 1355 Brandywine Trail variance. It's a consideration of a variance to reduce the rear setback from 30 feet to 15 feet for the purpose of constructing a covered porch. The property is located at 1355 Brandywine Trail and is legally described as being located in land lot 1101, 2nd District, 2nd Section, Fulton County, Georgia. Mr. Woodman. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. The first item before you is a variance to reduce the rear setback from 30 feet to 15 feet to allow for the construction of a covered porch. Have the location map on the overhead. The subject property is located at 1355 Brandywine Trail. That's in the Ruth's Farm subdivision. The property, it's a 0.36 acre property zoned R15, developed with a 2-story, about 4,000 square foot single family detached home. This is the site plan for the development, so this shows the lot and the house. I have a different exhibit that I'll show you in just one moment, but this is approximately where the covered porch is positioned. I'm just going to turn this so that it's oriented the same way as the home was. So this is the rear of the home here. And so this is the covered porch at this location. That covered porch goes into that 30-foot rear setback, approximately 15 feet. Let's go back to this. In the aerial here of the home, you can see that there are some groupings of evergreen trees that are planted in the backyard. There are also some deciduous trees here as well, so the applicant has indicated that those trees would remain. They would not be removed for the covered porch, so they'll help screen from the adjacent property. Of course, we reviewed this applicant's request against the established criteria for a variance. We found that the property did have an unusual shape given its location on the cul-de-sac, and the lot is nearly as wide as it is deep. Combination of those two really restrict placement of anything in the rear yard of that property. Of course, application of the ordinance would not allow any kind of covered deck, covered porch in the rear yard of the property. It would require a different location. Of course, we did look at other variances, and we do have examples in the same neighborhood. Not too long ago, we had a variance request to reduce a rear setback for a swimming pool in the same neighborhood. That request was approximately here, so just right over from this property. That was a reduction of the pool rear setback down to 11 feet, from 20 down to 11 feet. The applicant also provided letters of no objection from the adjacent properties. They were not successful in getting a letter of objection, no objection from the property to the rear that is owned by the Historical Society, but we've not heard from that property, so we don't have any objections on record from that property to the applicant's request. And the applicant has received approval from Ruth's Farm HOA as well. With that, staff is recommending approval of V22-23 Patel 1355 Brandywine Trail rear setback variance, subject to the following conditions. 1, porch shall be permitted as depicted on the plans prepared by Peachtree Deck and Porches, dated 3/29/22, and with a 15-foot rear setback. And 2, replace any removed trees on a 1 tree for 1 tree basis, excluding any specimen trees as approved by staff. And that concludes the presentation. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? No? Thank you, Mr. Woodman.
Thank you.
Mr. Patel, would you like to?
Hi, good afternoon, good evening.
Good evening.
Shalom Patel, I'm the homeowner. Thank you for considering our application. And I think Mr. Woodman covered everything to the highest detail, and don't really have anything else to add. I can answer any questions if needed.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any public comments? None? Okay, I'll ask for a motion. For discussion? Any discussion? Board? Motion first. Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve V-22-23 Patel 1355 Brandywine rear trail rear setback variance, subject to both conditions that staff has put forward.
Thank you. Any second?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No? Motion passes. Thank you, sir. Are we waiting on? Okay. Next matter is V-2226, 420 Real Crest Court fence variance. It's a consideration of a variance to increase the height of a fence on a residential property from 6 feet to 8 feet, and to allow the finished side of the fence to face the interior of the property. The property is located at 420 Real Crest Court and is legally described as being located in land lot 864, First District, 2nd Section, Fulton County, Georgia. Mr. Woodman.
Thank you again, Chairman and board members. The variance before you is a request to increase the height of a privacy fence from 6 feet to 8 feet and to allow the unfinished side of the fence to face outward. City's code enforcement was alerted to this particular situation, so that this fence has been constructed on the property. City's code enforcement received a complaint, went out to the property. They did put the property owner on notice that they could either have the fence comply with our code or that there was a process through the variance process that they could go through. So they are seeking a variance to increase the height of the fence as well as allow the unfinished side to face outward. Do you have the location map here? 420 Real Crest Court. This is the Berkshire Manor subdivision. This is a subdivision that is on Haynesbridge, south end of Haynesbridge. As I mentioned, UDC requires that a fence on a residential property not exceed 6 feet in height. We've had a number of those types of variance requests in the past that have been approved. Just a little information, and we'll talk about the location of the fence, the height as well as the finished side versus the unfinished side. So this is an exhibit that the applicant's attorney prepared showing the location of the fence. So the fence in yellow here is all 8 feet. This portion of the fence and this portion of the fence that faces Real Crest Court has the appropriate side of the fence facing out. So they are not seeking a variance with respect to the finished side here. Here, here, and here. So the sides and the rear, that is where the fence is, the finished side is not facing outwards towards these properties. And let me show you what the finish versus unfinished side looks like. So our code says that your fence should face your neighboring properties. It should look like this if it's a privacy fence. The unfinished side refers to the supports on the fence. This is not the applicant's fence because the fence is proper as it faces the street, and I couldn't have access to these private properties. I found an example online, but that is very representative of that fence. Here's an old aerial street view of the applicant's property. And this is before he installed the 8-foot fence. And you can notice that the adjacent property's fence is actually an 8-foot fence, and the applicant previously had a shorter fence. So when he installed this fence, he was just trying to match up with the neighbor's fence, which was at 8 feet. The reason why we have, and the applicant also provided a lot of examples of other fences in the neighborhood that are not in compliance with the code. And I know that there were some questions about how that would be. Of course, Berkshire Manor is on the edge of the city. It's on the very end of Haynesbridge before you're getting into Johns Creek, actually into Roswell. And so that neighborhood was actually annexed into the city. So it was developed in Fulton County. So you have a lot of legal nonconformities within that neighborhood. So that's why you've got some of those examples. The applicant also provided this exhibit. So as you are aware, applicants are required to notify the adjacent properties as part of this process, which they did, and they actually notified more than they needed to. So they are required to notify the adjacent touching properties. This is the applicant's property, and these are the adjacent touching properties. They went ahead and notified the 2 properties across the street, which is perfectly fine. They did receive sign-off from all adjacent properties except for this property. So everyone had signed a letter that was prepared by the applicant saying that they did not have any concerns with the applicant's variance request. However, they were not able to get this property, which is labeled C. It's 315 Knoll Ridge Court. This was the only one that did not sign off on that letter, but they did indicate that they notified that property owner. So of course, staff always looks at these against the review criteria for a variance. We did want to give the applicant an opportunity to seek the variance with respect to the finished versus unfinished side of the fence. It is a variance that we did research our variance files. While we had many examples of variance requests to increase the height of the fence, I don't have any past examples that I was able to find of variances to change the finished side versus the unfinished side. We rarely do, though, recommend against a private resident that is accidentally installed something improperly. We do want to at least give them the opportunity to seek a variance from this board. So we did end up recommending approval of that particular variance request. So with that, staff did recommend approval of the request subject to 2 conditions. Condition 1, an 8-foot privacy fence shall be permitted as depicted on the submitted plans. And 2, the orientation of the fence shall be permitted with the finished side facing inward. And that concludes the presentation. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those.
I have one.
Oh.
Michael, you were saying that you've not seen any variance with the inward-facing finished side of the fence. Is there anything in that subdivision that has a fence like that?
I didn't see anything. I did see one driving into work today. I've been kind of keeping an eye out for those and asked code enforcement kind of keep an eye out. We did have a subdivision along Mid-Broadwell Road that I noticed that had the unfinished side facing out towards Mid-Broadwell. But I will admit, I've been kind of keeping an eye looking for these situations. I didn't see too many of them, and code enforcement says that they don't run into that issue very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So the house that did not get approval or did not give their approval, I'm assuming that's a house has the outward facing them, is that correct? And let's see.
Yeah, so the unfinished side of the fence is facing towards E, D, and C, and B.
And C is the one that did not,
C is
just didn't
is
respond?
the only property that would not sign
Okay.
their document that they provided. I don't know if they were, you'd have to ask the applicant if they made physical contact with that property owner, or if maybe the property owner wasn't there. I don't know the answer to that question.
Please.
Michael, do you know when this was installed?
I don't know when the fence was installed, but applicants here should be able to answer that question.
The applicant is here?
Yep.
Okay.
We'll have you up.
Yes, the applicant is, the property owner is here.
Okay.
He is represented by an attorney, and he was hoping for the attorney to make the presentation, but the actual property owner is here, so he should be able to answer some
Okay,
questions
I've got a
as
couple
well.
of questions for him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions for the city? Thank you. Mr. Donato? Yes, sir. Good evening.
My name is Curtis Donato, and I live at 420 Rio Crest Court, Alpharetta, Georgia, 30022. And I'm seeking a variance because I'm having problems with my neighbor behind me with some of the stuff she has in her backyard, and for security reasons. 68 years old, and my wife's 73, and my neighbor behind me always having quite a few policemen at her house all the time, and I just want to be secure with the fence. And I know I didn't know it was really wrong because I've seen other fences. I do have pictures of fences turned inside out in our neighborhood before I even put it up. Plus, I've seen at least 4 8-foot fences in my neighborhood. That's one of the reasons I put it up. And the fence has been up since August the 4th last year. That's when I put it up. Yeah, August the 4th, exactly.
Did you have a fence company install it, I assume?
Sort of, yes, I had a company. And he had told me it was too high, but I said, but I want to put it up for security reasons. And he said, okay. It wasn't a big company, it was a small company.
Did he mention anything about requiring city approval to do that?
No, he sure didn't. If I would have did that, I would have checked into it, but he didn't say anything about it.
Okay. And the home behind you, have you had contact with?
Yes, sir. I went there. All my neighbors signed the paperwork approving it, and I talked to her husband, and her husband said she's not going to sign it. She said I had broke the code, and she said she wasn't going to sign it, and she was the one who reported me. Her husband told me, she's the one who reported me. Everything.
Okay. Questions from the board?
So, this is regarding not the height, but just the way it faces. Would you, I guess I just don't understand why you would want it facing that way if you could kind of more easily climb the outside of it with the boards exposed like that.
Because to be honest with you, I put it that way because it looked nicer that way. And plus, to me, I mean, I wanted it to look nice, and I didn't know I was really doing something wrong because I've seen other fences. I have quite a few pictures, well, not with me, but my lawyer did, that fences was turned inside out. And I have one of them with me now, but it's hard to see. And then this is my neighbor's backyard.
Would you put it on the screen over there, please? Place it up, please.
Oh, this way? Oh, I'm sorry. There you go.
Rotate it,
Okay.
one
A
more.
little more, there we go.
Thank you.
And then I have another one with the fence that's turned inside out. Where is it at?
This is the house behind you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can I,
It's really an eyesore. It really is. And I've never met the people before till I asked them, would they sign the petition thing? And they said, her husband told me, she said she wasn't gonna do it. And this is the fence, it's hard to see it, but it's quite a few fences turned
Are those were
inside out.
submitted in the packet already? Because we received several, okay.
Yeah.
So we have, we
Yeah, you have those.
have that, so you don't have
The
to,
only one you didn't have was this in here.
okay,
It was, I just got that the other day.
okay.
My question is really for staff. How would someone know that they're installing a fence the right way or the wrong way if you don't have to get a permit for a fence?
If they don't call, that's why we do have a lot of issues with the variances on the residential fences. We do have a Q&A, FAQ on the website, but I don't know that a lot of people know about it. We're trying to, the mayor has I think it's a quarterly meeting with neighborhoods throughout the city. And so we're thinking about potentially bringing something forward so that we can relay that information to neighborhoods, because it is an issue that we have a lot of problems with. When you don't have require a permit for something, people don't know about the regulations.
I'm going to be honest with you, I might need to come to BZA next month. Because I know I don't even know which way my fence faces, and I just told my fence guy, do what you're supposed to do, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I might have to.
Yeah. And this is another reason why we are very, very lenient in this, and why we were giving the applicant an opportunity to see if there's potential to get the variance approved. As we've discussed, we've seen a lot of height variances for fence, but we've really not seen the finish side variance. And
So-
there is potential, should the board want to look at this, to approve one and not approve the other. So keep that in mind as well.
you mean approve the height, but not the...
Correct.
Facing.
Yeah.
So what permits require, or what fences require a permit from the city? Are there any?
So we do not require a permit for a fence in the city. Permits are not required for a fence.
Hi, apologies, I'm late.
Just Mr. Hicks.
Yes,
All right, can you
good evening.
tell us your name, please, sir?
Yes, W. Daniel Hicks, Jr.
Okay. You're the attorney for
Yes, sir.
applicant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Other questions from the board? A couple issues that I have reading through the application. Are there extraordinary or exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular piece of property? And there really aren't, which I'm concerned with the precedent that this will set by having something installed and then people coming to the ZBA for approval rather than going through the process in the beginning. Would it create a unnecessary hardship? I understand the financial hardship, and I greatly appreciate that, but part of that is, due to, not listening when the fence, installer told you that, 8 feet was above the regulation. And are there conditions that are peculiar? Again, the fence has already been installed. Again, that's not a hardship that was created by the city or topography or anything else like that. It was created by, installing the fence without doing the research ahead of time. Are my feelings on that. Any other?
Well, yeah, I share your concerns. I mean, I understand anyone who's putting up a fence, you didn't do it yourself. You didn't, if this wasn't a homeowner install, this was a professional contractor?
No, sir. It wasn't. It wasn't a professional contractor.
It wasn't a professional
It was,
contractor?
one of the guys, one of the neighbors, he do, home improvement and stuff like that. He's not he's not a certified fence man.
Okay, because, you know, the intent of the code is to have an attractive fence on the road for the neighbors, anyone who passes by, and to have the framing portion within your own lot, because that affects you. You put up the fence, but one side has to be less attractive than the other. And from a common courtesy and community spirit type arrangement, that's why the framing side is typically on the exterior. So that does cause
That is the
concern.
case on the street-facing fence.
Yeah,
The street
street
side
facing-
has the framing, has the framing.
right.
Yes, on the inside, so you see the solid fence.
Yeah, but you should see the finished side from the outside.
You do.
That's what I'm saying. From the
do.
street side, you
From
see
the
the
street
finished
side.
side of the fence.
Yeah,
On the street, but not behind it
yeah.
on the side.
From the street side, you can see the finish.
But from the sides, you're seeing the frame. From the outside side, you're looking at the frame portion of the fence,
That's correct.
not the finished side of the fence.
That's in the inside.
So your neighbors see the
And they-
framing, they see the framed side, not the finished side.
That is correct, but they have signed acknowledgements that they have no
And
objection.
we understand portion of them did and a portion did not.
There's one neighbor, I believe, who did not.
Okay? Okay.
And I assume she's not here.
Yeah, that's-
Oh, you were here. Okay. I apologize.
Any other questions for applicant?
Did you discuss the security issue?
Yes, I told him about security.
How many gates do you have on the fence, sir?
How many gates?
Yes,
Just one on the right side. It hangs open
in the front?
in the front, yes, sir.
Okay, is that, if we went out there today, is that locked?
I don't have a lock on it, but you'd have to pull the string to lift it up,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
I wanted to have my property marked off, and the guy never did show up. So I took the lock completely off of it, but I have a string that you can lift it up. But if you don't lift it up, you can't get in.
okay. Thank you. Have a seat. I'll open this up for public comments. Yes, ma'am. Come in front of the podium and tell us your name and your address, please.
My name is Donna Lieutenant. I live at 315 Norwich Court in Alpharetta.
Okay,
The reason why I will not sign the fencing, number one, everybody around me has their correct fencing facing, the framing facing the correct way. Common knowledge, I come from New York and everywhere else, common knowledge is the framing is always on the inside of the fence. But the issue I am having is ever since their whole backyard, I've had problems with that house because there was canopies of trees back there. And the one homeowner that owned it one time, when their tree fell, they wouldn't give me their insurance information to get my fence fixed. And I have a chain link fence, and all my frames are in the inside. And so I guess the gentleman cleared his complete canopy, and he had at least 2 to 3 times as many trees as I did, maybe even more, because I had 7 trees in my backyard, and I just had them cut down because I have, as you see, he took a picture, all that stuff, because I have an addition that I'm doing with all the building permits, everything approved. So there's a lot of construction going on right now. But the issue is when they were cutting down my trees, the way their fence is, the slats are 6 feet, but the frame goes down. When he leveled his land, He's up here and I'm down here.
Okay,
So now that his whole canopy is gone, it's not stopping the rain. When they cut down my fences, and you know how they cut and they let there was so much mud, their little tractor thing got stuck in the mud because all of that is coming down now into my yard. They don't have nothing to block it or anything. So over the years, I've had a lot of erosion and all that dirt coming down. So like my fence is 4 feet, and now it's about 3 feet because it's filled with dirt from that house coming down because of the way we go. The people back here, they're more level, but I'm on this kind of slope.
okay. Anything else you'd like to mention?
I'm sorry?
Anything else you'd like to mention to the board?
No, I don't think so. And I don't want to look at his frames, period.
Okay, thank you. I will ask for a motion, and after we have a motion and a second, then we'll have discussion on the matter. Anybody like to make a motion?
Yes. I would make a motion to approve the variance for the height variance request, but to disallow the approval of the, disapproval of that for the finished side to be on the interior. So I'd like to see the finished part on the exterior like it should be.
Okay,
That's my motion.
thank you. Second?
I second that.
Thank you. Discussion?
Can they go just put it on an existing fence? Can they just put the boards up? Or we don't-
So they could replace, they could go in and take off the slats
And just put
and
them underneath.
turn them over,
Just turn
and
it over.
just turn it over. They could, that doesn't seem like an onerous
Okay.
process.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm like you, Mike. I mean, I think the height piece is fine. There's definitely precedence for that, but it doesn't seem like there's a ton of precedence from having the other way around.
okay, we've got a motion. All in favor? Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Can I appeal that? The part, because where his fencing ends at the bottom, it's just nothing but dirt and.
You'll have to speak to the city on that, and I can't direct you on that. I don't have the,
Speak to the city on that?
yes, ma'am. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Is it essential that he change the facing even with respect to the neighbors to approve?
Yes. Yes.
Second.
We're adjourned.